My sister was 7 months pregnant when she got tased right there on my front porch. The HOA president stood over her like a cop in a courtroom, clipboard in hand, calm as ice. And what started all of this? A birdhouse. My father's old birdhouse. She called it an unauthorized fixture. That was the day I realized Claudine Rowe didn't just run our HOA. She ruled it like a kingdom. I'm Ethan Mallory, civil rights paralegal. I've spent years cleaning up after petty tyrants who think their titles make them gods, but this time it wasn't a client's name on the report. It was mine. It was my sister lying on the concrete, gasping for breath, her shirt scorched where the taser hit. And that sound, the crackle, the scream, it never really leaves you. Claudine stood on my porch, smug as hell. "Your sister obstructed enforcement," she said, like she was reading from a script. Beside her, the security guard Gavin Brooks still had his weapon half raised. I stepped between them, shaking but steady. "You tased a pregnant woman because of a birdhouse," Claudine smirked. "Mr. Mallory, your family refuses to follow the rules of Briarwood Lake Estates." "Your rules," I snapped, "not the law." Her badge swung from her neck, HOA logo shining in the sunlight. She thought it made her untouchable. She didn't know I knew the law better than she ever would. Section 9.1138 State Code explicitly prohibits HOAs from delegating enforcement to private armed contractors. When I said those words out loud, her smirk twitched. The cops arrived minutes later, real ones this time, and I watched the fear ripple across the neighborhood as blinds fluttered open, faces peeking out. No one wanted to believe what they'd seen, but they all had. My sister, 7 months pregnant, tased on private property over a wooden birdhouse painted sky blue, the last thing our father built before his stroke. That night, as Mara lay in the hospital whispering, "It wasn't supposed to go this far," something in me cracked. This wasn't about one bad rule anymore. It was about power, the kind that hides behind paperwork and fear. Claudine thought intimidation kept people safe. She was wrong. It just made them silent. The next morning I found an envelope taped to my door, a $1,000 fine for verbal hostility toward board representatives. The HOA seal glared at me like a dare. Down the street my neighbors pretended not to look. Mrs. Tron turned away. Mark Dalton just muttered, "Don't fight her, man. She owns the board." I told him quietly. Then maybe it's time someone took it back. Weeks passed and I watched the neighborhood bend under her thumb. Fines for mismatched flower pots. Threats over mailbox paint. Claudine's voice boomed through every meeting, pre-recorded messages about harmony through compliance. She called it order. I called it fear with a smile. But even tyrants make mistakes. During one of her so-called community meetings, I saw something she didn't intend for me to see, a slide titled Incident Mallory Property. It showed my sister sitting on the ground crying, labeled Obstruction of Enforcement. No taser, no blood, just propaganda. My hands clenched so tight I thought I'd draw blood. When the meeting ended, I caught Gavin outside smoking by his truck, staring at the ground like the guilt was eating him alive. I walked up slowly. "You followed orders," I said. "But you know she crossed the line." He looked up, eyes hollow. "You don't get it. She tracks everything ours, calls every patrol. You disobey, you disappear. Then help me make sure no one else does." He hesitated, then whispered, "She forged the contracts, Ethan. Her brother owns the company. She signs the HOA letterhead herself." That was the first real crack in her armor. Later that night by the lake, Gavin handed me a flash drive. Every patrol report, every fake signature, everything she told us to hide. His hands were shaking. She said the taser was a warning to keep others in line. I didn't mean to pull the trigger. I swear. I looked him in the eye. Then help me make it right. By dawn, I was sitting in my office surrounded by files, coffee gone cold, my laptop open to the Virginia Department of Professional Regulation complaint portal. I knew filing this would start a war, but it had to start somewhere. I built the case like a machine: false contracting, unlicensed enforcement, physical assault under fraudulent authority. Each document another nail in her coffin. When I hit submit, I whispered, "Let's see how untouchable you really are." The next day she retaliated. Another fine, another threat: revocation of community privileges. No pool, no mailroom, no lake access. She thought isolation would break me. It didn't. It just focused me. I pinned the notice on my corkboard beside the others. Evidence. Then the call came. Carla Nangwan, my old colleague, compliance attorney. You weren't kidding, she said. If you can prove those contracts were signed with forged seals, she's looking at criminal charges. File it today. I already had. That same week, Claudine tried to bury her tracks. Rebranded Rose Security into Briarwood Compliance Division. Same trucks, same guards, shiny new decals. I caught Gavin one last time, pale and sweating. She's shredding everything he said. She told me to burn the patrol logs. Then we move fast, I told him. He handed me another flash drive. Her emails. And the contracts with forged notary seals. You can end her, Ethan. Just make sure it counts. When I got home, I barely slept. Every click of my keyboard sounded like a countdown. At sunrise, I sent the second complaint, this time with attachments proving forgery. Within hours, Carla called back. DPOR's moving on it. Emergency injunction in progress. Ethan, you did it. That afternoon, I drove past the clubhouse. The HOA notice board had been wiped clean again, only this time it wasn't fear keeping people quiet. It was tension. Something was coming. By evening, I saw at Claudine's assistants dumping boxes into a shredder behind the office. The sound plastic chewing paper truth turning to dust. I hit record, capturing every second. The names on the labels: Rose Security Logs, Violation Records Board Memos. And there she was, Claudine herself. Sunglasses on, directing the destruction like a general torching her empire. Then distant sirens. Flashing red lights reflecting off the lake. 2 sheriff cruisers. Claudine froze, phone halfway to her ear. The investigators had arrived. The lead one, a woman named Ruth Danner, stepped out calm and confident. We're here under complaint number 251173, she said. This property is now under state inspection. Claudine tried to hold her ground. This is private property. You have no authority here. Ruth flipped open her folder. We do now pursuant to Virginia Code 9.1138. You could see it hit Claudine like a punch. Still, she tried to bluff. Our security division operates independently. Independently? Ruth raised an eyebrow. Then why is your signature on these forged notary documents? Silence. Behind her, the deputies pried open the office door. Smoke and the smell of burnt paper filled the air. She was shredding evidence, one said. Ruth turned back to Claudine. You're aware destruction of records during an active investigation constitutes obstruction. Claudine's voice cracked. You can't just... Ma'am, Ruth said flatly. I strongly advise you not to finish that sentence. The clipboard trembled in Claudine's hands. Her mask of authority finally broke. I stayed behind the fence, phone steady, filming everything. Years of fear, humiliation, and silence all unraveling under the afternoon sun. When Ruth called my name, I stepped forward. You're the complainant, correct? Yes, I said. My voice was steady now. Everything I submitted matches the originals. She merged a private company with an HOA to create a fake police force. She used forged seals, illegal fines, and intimidation to control residents. Ruth nodded. Then you'll testify to that. Claudine's voice shook. You think this ends me? You still live here. You'll still pay dues. You'll still answer to someone. Maybe, I said. But not to you. The deputies escorted her away as her clipboard slipped from her hand and hit the pavement. A single paper fluttered loose, my last violation notice. I picked it up and folded it carefully. Evidence. Weeks later, the administrative hearing took place. The courthouse was packed, neighbors, reporters, even a few cops who'd had enough of her games. My mother, State Senator Ellen Mallory, sat in the front row, arms crossed, stone-faced. She'd left her committee meetings to be there. For once, power was watching power. Claudine sat across the aisle, pale, exhausted, but still trying to look composed. Her lawyer opened with the usual arrogance. The state lacks jurisdiction. This is a private governance issue. Ruth's voice cut through the room. Jurisdiction is established under Virginia Code 9.1138. This isn't governance, it's unlicensed enforcement. A pregnant woman was assaulted. The judge nodded. Motion denied. Proceed. I took the stand. My name is Ethan Mallory. I filed this complaint after my sister was tased by an unlicensed contractor under orders from Ms. Rowe. What began as a personal attack revealed something much bigger, a system built on fear and forged authority. I presented the documents. contracts with fake notary stamps, emails with her digital signature, fines with no vote approval. Claudine's attorney tried to object, but every objection died the same way in proof. Then the resident spoke. Mark Dalton stood up. She fined me $800 for parking my truck 2 inches off the curb, said it obstructed uniformity. I paid because I was scared. Mrs. Tran raised a trembling hand. She destroyed my husband's memorial garden, said it wasn't aesthetic. Whispers spread through the room, building into something louder. Claudine snapped. You don't understand. This community was chaos before me. I brought order. I looked straight at her. Order built on fear isn't order, it's dictatorship. The room went quiet, then erupted into applause. Even the judge let it go on for a moment before calling for order again. His voice was calm when he delivered the verdict. The evidence of forgery, misuse of funds, and unlicensed enforcement is overwhelming. Effective immediately, Claudine Rowe is removed from office, and the Briarwood Lake Estates HOA charter is suspended pending court review. For a second she didn't move, just sat there staring at her clipboard lying broken on the floor. The same clipboard she'd used to fine, threaten, and silence people. Now it looked as useless as her title. Deputies led her out as cameras flashed. Behind me, neighbors were hugging, crying free. I didn't feel triumph, just relief, like I could finally breathe again. I walked outside into the sunlight. The HOA's old slogan still hung on a half-torn banner, "Harmony through compliance." I pulled it down. The wind caught it and carried it away, twisting through the air until it disappeared beyond the lake. And that's where it ends. Power only lasts until someone dares to say no.